You are not. You're not escaping, girl, the officer sneered, shoving her against the edifice. Do you imagine this public building is a place for your kind to roam freely? Maya Williams struck the courthouse wall head-on. Officer Dean Harper's hand clamped onto the back of her neck, pressing her there. Her cheek and forehead abraded against the rough brick. It was aged federal brick, its edges chipped and the mortar gritty. A sharp sting bloomed along her cheekbone. Rainwater trickled into the wound, initially cold, then searing. "Sir, I implore you," Maya stammered, her voice trembling. "I am merely returning to my residence." "Returning home?" Harper barked. "Past a federal courthouse at midnight? My bus stop is on Mercer Street." The route had been altered. "Do not deceive me. I am not. I am employed here." Harper chuckled, his breath warm against her ear. "You work here?" "Indeed. I am part of the night cleaning crew. I've just completed my duties." He applied more pressure. Her forehead dragged against the brick, and she stifled a cry. "So you mop floors and empty receptacles, and you believe that grants you ownership of this courthouse?" "No, sir. I merely maintain its cleanliness." "You're a janitor, a cleaning attendant. You arrive after respectable individuals depart, clearing their discarded cups, sanitizing their facilities, and transporting refuse. That status does not confer belonging here." Maya swallowed. "I relocated to Virginia just 3 weeks ago. I work evenings. That's why you haven't encountered me. Kindly contact my supervisor. Her name is Lena Brooks." "Lena Brooks," Harper repeated, mimicking the name derisively. "Is that meant to exonerate you?" "No, she can confirm my assignment for this evening." A woman beneath a dark umbrella paused near the courthouse steps. She wore a navy suit and held a briefcase firmly against her chest. "Officer, check her identification." Harper did not release Maya. "Ma'am, continue on your way. I am an attorney. You can confirm her employment status with building services. I instructed you to proceed." Maya attempted to turn her head, but the movement reopened the scrape on her cheek. Warm blood mingled with the rain near her jaw. "My identification is in my front pocket." Harper reached into her pocket and retrieved the temporary badge. His flashlight beam swept across the plastic card. "Maya Williams, contracted night custodial staff, Harrington Federal Courthouse." For a moment, he fell silent. Then he tossed it onto the wet pavement. "It could be a forgery." "It is not. It could be pilfered. It bears my likeness." "Likenesses can be fabricated." Maya gazed at the badge lying in the downpour. "Please, I require this position. I possess few acquaintances here. I clean, I clock out, and I depart. That is all." Harper offered a smile devoid of warmth. "A role involving the disposal of refuse. Perhaps that is the only aspect I find credible." The words struck her with greater force than the wall, yet she remained composed. "What is contained within the bag?" Harper demanded. "My gloves, my thermos, my lunch receptacle." "Bomb components." Maya froze. "What?" "You heard me." He snatched her backpack from the pavement and shook it once. "Are you attempting to plant something within my courthouse?" The attorney moved closer. "Officer, she is injured. You must cease." Harper turned his head. "One more utterance and you will be obstructing a counter-terrorism investigation." "Terrorism?" Maya whispered. "I am a janitor. I was returning home." "That is a convenient pretext." "It is not a pretext." "Then open the bag." Maya's hands trembled against the wall. "I do not grant permission for a search." "Am I obligated to?" Harper's visage hardened. Your kind always knows your rights when you have something to conceal. The attorney interjected. Inquiring about consent is not a criminal act. At the curb, a rideshare driver raised his phone. I am documenting this. She is not engaged in any unlawful activity, Harper snapped. Put that device down. No, sir, the driver replied, his voice shaky but resolute. Not after you scraped her face against that wall. Harper released Maya's neck, only to seize her arm. Do you wish to demonstrate? Very well. He yanked her away from the wall and spun her toward the curb. Maya stumbled, one foot sliding on the rain-slicked asphalt. Sir, I implore you, she pleaded. Simply contact my supervisor. I will wait here. Harper shoved her forcefully. Maya lost her footing and tumbled sideways into a heap of black refuse bags stacked near the service curb, awaiting the pre-dawn collection. One ruptured beneath her weight. Wet paper cups, spoiled food, coffee grounds, and courthouse detritus scattered around her. Her knee plunged into a shallow pool dark with motor oil, its iridescent sheen spreading across her scrub trousers and palms. For a single breath, silence reigned. Then Harper let out a laugh. There you are, he declared. Back where you belong, amidst the garbage. Maya pushed herself up with one hand. Her cheek burned. Her forehead throbbed. Oil streaked her fingers. Refuse clung to her sleeve. Shame surged, hot and sharp in her throat, but she suppressed it. I am a worker, she stated firmly. I am not refuse. Harper stepped over the torn bag. Hands behind your back. Please, I did not break in. I planted nothing. I was merely going home. Hands behind your back. You are not a criminal. No, Harper stated, retrieving the restraints from his belt. At this moment, you are a person of interest. He yanked her upright by the arm. Pain shot through her shoulder. The attorney shouted, She is not resisting. I am a witness. The rideshare driver yelled, I have it on video. Harper disregarded them. The first handcuff snapped around Maya's wrist with such tightness that she gasped. The second clamped down, pinching skin against bone. She forced herself not to cry out again. Tears would offer no assistance. Anger would be equally unhelpful. Survival was paramount. Maya Williams, Harper announced loudly. You are under arrest for obstruction, trespassing on federal property, suspected attempted breach, and potential terror-related activity pending investigation. Terror, Maya gasped, breathless. I was walking home from my job. You should have considered that prior to loitering with a bag. He marched her toward the patrol vehicle. Her employee badge lay face up in the rain. Her backpack dangled from Harper's fist. Her phone slipped from her hoodie pocket and struck the pavement near the oily puddle, its screen glowing for a fleeting second. Before he had forced her face into the wall, before he had propelled her into refuse, before he had branded her a terrorist for walking home, Maya had managed to dispatch a single message. Federal courthouse detained, no probable cause, potential internal compromise. It had reached a number she had not utilized in 3 years. Harper noticed the phone and snatched it up. Who did you text? Maya remained silent. Who did you text? I request legal counsel. He guffawed. You will require more than a lawyer, sweetheart. Do not address me in such a manner. His expression darkened. Enter the vehicle. He pushed her into the rear seat. Her cuffed wrists scraped against the hard plastic lining. The door slammed shut, trapping her inside with the pervasive odor of stale sweat, disinfectant, and the residual fear of those who had occupied that space before her. Through the rain-streaked window, Maya observed the Harrington Federal Courthouse illuminated above the street, its presence solemn and immaculate, as if it had not just witnessed one of its own workers being cast into the refuse at its feet. Harper settled behind the wheel and spoke into his radio. Transporting one female suspect, possible courthouse breach, potential terror angle, uncooperative. Maya closed her eyes. Her cheek pulsed where the brick had torn it. Her garments carried the scent of garbage and oil. Her hands trembled behind her back. Yet, her mind had already transcended Harper, the cruiser, and the falsehoods he was weaving into the night. The message had already departed Harrington, venturing far beyond the courthouse into a secure office where midnight alerts were never disregarded. A screen was on the verge of flashing crimson. Harper believed he had humiliated a frightened black cleaning woman who had strayed too close to a structure that did not welcome her. He remained unaware that she had spent years mastering the art of how influential individuals conceal their secrets.
And he was oblivious to the fact that by casting Maya Williams into the trash, he had positioned her precisely where she knew how to unearth the truth.
3 weeks prior, Maya Williams arrived in Harrington, Virginia, with 2 suitcases, 1 duffel bag, and a name she hoped no one would investigate too thoroughly. The bus deposited her 2 blocks from Eastbrook Avenue shortly after sunset. Harrington was not the sort of town that presented an immediate sense of danger. It boasted red brick storefronts, church signs with interchangeable white lettering, ancient maple trees arching over narrow lanes, and front porches where elderly residents still sat with iced tea in plastic cups, observing the evening's descent. It appeared to be a locale where individuals offered greetings even to strangers. It seemed like a place where one could vanish discreetly, provided they kept their head down and met their rent obligations punctually. That was Maya's sole aspiration. Her lodging occupied the 2nd floor of a slender boarding house managed by Mrs. Patterson, a 72-year-old widow with hair like spun silver, gentle hands, and eyes that missed nothing. She greeted Maya at the door, attired in house slippers and a cardigan adorned with delicate blue floral embroidery along the sleeves. "Are you the new young lady from the agency?" Mrs. Patterson inquired. "Yes, ma'am. Maya Williams." Mrs. Patterson assessed her. Not rudely, but with careful observation, the manner in which older women do when life has impressed upon them that documentation rarely reveals the complete narrative. "Do you have any connections around here?" "No, ma'am." "Church affiliations?" "No, ma'am." "A vehicle?" "Not yet." Mrs. Patterson sighed softly. She took one of the suitcases before Maya could intervene and stated, "Then you had best familiarize yourself with the bus routes and do not rely on those posted online. They become unreliable after 9 o'clock.
That was the initial act of kindness Harrington offered her. The room was modest but tidy. A single bed, a dresser with 1 recalcitrant drawer, a window overlooking the alley, and a hot plate on a narrow counter. The radiator knocked at night, akin to someone trapped within the pipes. Maya placed her clothing in the dresser, arranged her footwear by the door, and stored the old duffel bag in the closet without unpacking its contents. Within that bag resided remnants of a life she no longer engaged with. Folded uniforms, sealed documents, a small metal challenge coin, and memories that still stirred her before dawn. She secured the courthouse employment through a staffing agency that posed minimal inquiries. The Harrington Federal Courthouse required contracted custodial personnel for the night shift. The remuneration was modest, the hours solitary, and most individuals resigned within a month. Maya accepted the position before the woman behind the desk concluded her explanation of the schedule. "Are you certain?" the recruiter inquired. "It is from 10 o'clock at night until 4 o'clock in the morning. Primarily refuse, floors, restrooms, holding areas. Unpleasant work." "Work need not be aesthetically pleasing," Maya responded. 2 nights later, she reported to the service entrance at the rear of the Harrington Federal Courthouse, clad in dark scrub pants, black sneakers, and a nondescript jacket. The building presented a different aspect from this vantage point. No grand columns, no polished steps, no carved inscriptions pertaining to justice,
merely loading docks, dumpsters, surveillance cameras, and a steel door with a keypad. It was there she encountered Lena Brooks. Lena was 64 years of age, broad-shouldered, with brown skin, and carried herself with the poise of a woman who had raised children, mourned a husband, and weathered every supervisor who mistook a clipboard for authority. Her hair was tucked beneath a navy scarf, and she propelled a yellow cleaning cart with one wheel that emitted a persistent squeak. "You, Maya?" Lena inquired. "Yes, ma'am." "Do not overly employ ma'am. It makes me feel as though I require a church fan." Lena presented her with a ring of temporary keys. "Have you previously cleaned government facilities?" "Not precisely. Well, marble stains, legal professionals are prone to falsehoods, judges spill coffee with the abandon of toddlers, and no one within this structure possesses the facility to discard a salad bowl without missing the receptacle. You will adapt." Maya almost smiled. Lena imparted her training in the traditional manner. Through perambulation and discourse, they navigated back hallways, service corridors, compact offices, restrooms, jury deliberation rooms, and courtrooms that appeared hallowed after dark. Unoccupied benches, silent witness stands, flags held motionless, microphones dormant. The environment exuded a gravity that Maya found unsettling. Far too many decisions had been rendered there by individuals who were subsequently able to return to their homes. Lena demonstrated 3 categories of waste. Regular refuse was to be placed in black receptacles. Recyclable materials were designated for clear receptacles. Secure documents were to be deposited into locked gray bins labeled for shredding. Never intermingle them, Lena advised, and refrain from touching anything on a judge's desk unless it is within the waste receptacle, particularly Judge Holloway's office. Maya glanced at her. Why especially his? Lena tightened the knot on a refuse bag. Because some individuals present a cordial facade while harboring malicious intent. Judge Richard Holloway's chambers were situated on the 3rd floor, shielded by frosted glass and substantial wooden doors. Even after hours, the air outside his office carried a faint aroma of expensive cologne, aged paper, and authority. On Maya's inaugural night, his waste receptacle contained nothing unusual: coffee cups, legal pads, a torn envelope, a dinner receipt from an establishment downtown. However, Lena observed the office as though it possessed a life of its own. Within a courthouse, Lena remarked softly, disregard what individuals profess during daylight hours. Observe what they discard under the cloak of night. Maya paused her task of tying the bag. Lena looked at her. Are you quite well? Yes, she replied, but the statement had resonated with a deep-seated memory. For 3 weeks, Maya worked diligently and without complaint. She learned which elevator creaked ominously between the 2nd and 3rd floors, which clerk habitually remained late on Tuesdays, which security guard furtively watched baseball games on his mobile device, and which hallway camera rotated slowly enough to create a 6-second blind spot near the basement stairwell. She discovered that the vending machine consumed quarters, that the night bus occasionally arrived ahead of schedule, and that Mrs. Patterson would leave cornbread wrapped in foil outside her door whenever she perceived Maya to be underweight. Most nights involved ordinary coffee cups, paper towels, dust, and footprints. A courthouse after hours transitioned from a place of reverence to resembling a fatigued office building littered with crumbs. However, Thursday evenings presented an anomaly. On Thursday nights, there was invariably one additional black refuse bag situated near the secure disposal area in the basement. It was never included on Maya's checklist. It never bore a disposal tag. It was consistently tied twice, with a precise and secure knot, as if the individual responsible for leaving it there did not wish its contents to become exposed. The first instance Maya noted it, she admonished herself not to become preoccupied. The second time, she consulted the schedule. No late cleaning order, no maintenance directive, no supplementary courtroom assignment. The third time, she witnessed the basement camera momentarily cease functioning. Precisely 12 minutes. Maya stood beside her cart, one gloved hand resting on its handle, listening to the building's ambient hum. Somewhere above, water flowed through pipes. A distant door clicked shut. The air bore the scent of bleach, damp masonry, and paper that had been handled by an excessive number of anxious individuals. She ought to have disengaged. She had resolved to live a modest existence, a tranquil life. No reports, no nocturnal calls, no names or files that could lead to fatal consequences. Yet, the bug remained positioned beside a secure receptacle, not within it. Maya crouched and loosened the knot. Initially, she observed ordinary refuse: coffee grounds, napkins, a broken pen, a fractured plastic lid. Then, fragments of torn courthouse stationery, thick and cream-colored, bearing the embossed seal from Judge Holloway's chambers. Beneath this lay a partially broken USB drive, enveloped in a paper towel. And below that, folded twice, was a strip of paper displaying coded designations arranged in a format Maya had not encountered since a different nation, a different room. Another night when 3 individuals perished because a list had been compromised. Her fingers stilled. She ceased breathing for several seconds. Then she heard footsteps overhead. Maya slipped the broken USB into her pocket, folded the strip of paper within her glove, retied the bag, and stood just as the basement camera reactivated. That was the night her shift extended beyond its scheduled duration. That was the night the bus route was modified. And that was the reason, 20 minutes later, Maya Williams walked past the front of the Harrington Federal Courthouse, rein on her shoulders, secrets concealed within her pocket, and with no inkling that Officer Dean Harper was observing from across the street. If you feel Maya's apprehension in this moment, and if you believe no individual should face judgment based on their skin tone or their attire, please offer this video a like and inform us in the comments from where you are viewing, as someone near you might be witnessing the same narrative at this very instant, experiencing identical indignation, the same burgeoning hope, and the same yearning for justice. Do not neglect to subscribe and activate the notification bell to ensure you do not miss the next compelling story awaiting its revelation. Officer Dean Harper had been stationed opposite the Harrington Federal Courthouse for 27 minutes, observing the rain transform the windshield into a blurry, shifting panorama. He detested this assignment. Nothing transpired after midnight except intoxicated legal professionals stumbling towards rideshares, clerks clandestinely smoking near the loading dock, and janitorial staff dragging refuse sacks as if preparing for a funerary rite for bureaucratic paperwork. Then he saw Maya. A black woman in a gray hooded garment emerged from the side of the courthouse. She walked briskly but did not run. One hand remained tucked in her pocket. A well-worn backpack rested on her shoulder. Harper shifted forward. She stayed close to the wall, her head slightly lowered against the precipitation, proceeding past the front steps towards Mercer Street. He had never encountered her previously. That, for him, was sufficient. Harper opened the cruiser door and stepped into the downpour. "Hey, you!" Maya heard him but continued walking for a fraction of a second. Not out of intent to disregard him, but because her thoughts were occupied by the paper concealed within her glove and the broken USB pressing against her hip. When she turned, his flashlight beam was already blinding her. "Where do you believe you are going?" he inquired. "Home," Maya replied. "From where?" She gestured toward the building. "Work." Harper glanced up at the courthouse, then back at her. "Work?" "Yes. Night cleaning crew at this courthouse?" "Yes, sir." He approached, his boots splashing through a shallow puddle. Curious. I have been assigned to this vicinity for 2 years. I am acquainted with the regular personnel. I am new. How new? 3 weeks. Convenient. Maya felt the initial cold tendril of apprehension slither down her spine.
I can present my identification. Hands where I can observe them. She raised both hands slowly. The glove on her right hand felt unexpectedly heavy due to the folded strip of paper concealed within. She could not allow him to confiscate it. Not yet, not until she comprehended the significance of her discovery. My identification is in my front pocket, she stated. May I retrieve it? Harper's flashlight descended to her backpack. What is within? Work gloves, a thermos, a lunch container. You consistently exit the building through the front. No, the bus route was altered. Construction on Mercer. Mercer is 2 blocks east. Yes, so why were you positioned near the service entrance? I exited through the employee door after midnight. My shift concluded late. He scrutinized her, then spoke into his shoulder radio. Unit 12, I have a suspicious female observed outside the federal courthouse, east wall. Possible trespasser. Maya's chest constricted. Sir, I am not trespassing. I am employed here. Then you will not object to me examining the contents of that bag. I do not consent to a search. Harper's expression transformed. It was not surprise. It was a discernible satisfaction, as if she had finally conformed to his preconceived notion of her. What did you say? I stated that I do not consent. Am I obligated to? He stepped closer. Do you have something to conceal? No. Then open the bag. Please contact my supervisor, Lena Brooks. I did not inquire about Lena Brooks. I inquired about the bag. Maya glanced past him towards the courthouse entrance. The grand doors were secured. The flag above them fluttered in the rain. A dark sedan was parked half a block away, its lights extinguished. She noticed it now because one of its windshield wipers was in motion, although no one had exited the vehicle. Someone was observing. Harper perceived her glance. Looking for your associate? What? Someone inside awaiting you. Someone you were signaling? No, I'm alone. Is that meant to reassure me? Maya forced her voice lower. Officer, I am merely a custodian. I collected refuse. I clocked out. I am returning home. Harper chuckled. Your kind believes that designating yourselves as a custodian imbues the role with importance. You empty garbage receptacles. It is honest labor. Honest individuals avoid clandestine movements around public edifices at ungodly hours. I was not attempting any such subterfuge. He seized her forearm. Maya stiffened but refrained from extricating herself. Kindly refrain from turning around. For what purpose? Because I have commanded it. Am I under arrest? Harper forcibly maneuvered her arm behind her back, propelling her towards the edifice's exterior. You are presently. Her shoulder made first contact, followed by her cheek. His palm struck the nape of her neck, driving her face into the coarse brickwork. A searing white pain engulfed her vision. Skin abraded along her cheekbone. Rainwater seeped into the wound, eliciting an involuntary gasp from Maya. It was at this juncture that the woman, attired in a naval uniform, paused near the ascent. "Officer," she called out, "what exactly are you doing?" Harper disregarded her. "Do you perceive this as a triviality?" "No," Maya articulated, her voice trembling. "I am conveying the truth." "Then elucidate what you deposited." "I did not deposit anything. You have a courthouse alarm malfunction, an unidentified individual near the auxiliary entrance, and a container that you refuse to open. I am employed here. Components of an explosive device are within the container." Maya's respiration faltered. "No. Explosives?
No. Maps, timers, access credentials? No. Please, merely examine my identification. He extracted the temporary identification from her garment, illuminated it with his beam, and remained motionless for a duration sufficient to suggest that rationality might finally permeate the darkness. He then discarded it onto the pavement. Fraudulent. It is not fraudulent, pilfered. Then it bears my likeness. Cease your discourse, the legal advocate advanced. That credential suffices to corroborate her identity. Contact building administration. Harper pivoted towards her. Madam, retreat, or you shall become a participant in a terrorism inquiry. Terrorism? Maya stammered. Harper snatched her satchel and agitated it. An individual exhibiting suspicious behavior outside a federal courthouse, refusing a search. That is plausible. I refuse on the grounds of my inherent liberties. Do you comprehend that? Harper inquired loudly, directing his gaze towards the vehicle operator at the curb who had commenced recording. She is cognizant of her rights. They invariably are when they are culpable. The driver interjected. Man, she ain't doing nothing. Harper released Maya only to forcibly pull her away from the wall. She faltered, her right hand still tightly grasping the glove containing the folded strip of paper. Sir, I implore you, she stated. I have only recently relocated here. I work night shifts. I am unacquainted with many individuals. Permit me to contact Mrs. Brooks. Cease your resistance. I am not resisting. He gave her a forceful push. Maya tumbled into the pile of black refuse sacks awaiting collection near the service curb. One ruptured beneath her. Coffee grounds, sodden paper, decaying foodstuffs, and courthouse refuse cascaded around her. Her knee collided with a puddle, its surface iridescent with motor oil, a rainbow sheen spreading across her uniform. Harper guffawed. There you have it. Back to your rightful place. In the refuse. The words stung, but not to the same degree as the dawning realization that the fractured USB drive remained in her pocket. And should Harper search her at this moment, Holloway's secrets risked vanishing before anyone could comprehend them. Maya pushed herself upright. I am not refuse. Precisely, Harper declared, producing his restraints. You are a person of interest. He roughly yanked her upright and fastened the cuffs with force, the metal biting into her wrists. The attorney vociferated that Maya was not offering resistance. The rideshare driver loudly proclaimed that he possessed recorded evidence. Harper disregarded them both as he escorted Maya to the patrol vehicle. Her mobile device slipped from her pocket, striking the damp asphalt. For a fleeting instant, the screen illuminated. The communication had already been dispatched. Federal courthouse detained, no probable cause, potential internal breach. Harper snatched up the device. Whom did you message? Maya regarded him through the veil of rain, blood, and humiliation. I request legal counsel. He propelled her into the rear compartment and forcefully shut the door. Through the window, Maya observed the dark sedan departing the curb without its illumination activated. It glided past the courthouse, stealthy and silent, then disappeared around the bend. That occurrence instilled more dread than Harper's presence, for she now apprehended that the refuse bag had not been abandoned. It had been under surveillance. The transit to the Harrington Police Department consumed 11 minutes, yet Maya meticulously tallied each second. Officer Harper navigated the sodden side streets at an excessive velocity, one hand gripping the steering wheel, the other rhythmically tapping the radio console as if already rehearsing his official account. In the rear seating area, Maya sat with her shackled wrists positioned behind her. A stinging sensation persisted on her cheek where the courthouse brick had abraded the epidermis. Her uniform trousers were marred with motor oil. The aroma of refuse clung to her sleeves. Harper cast a furtive glance at her reflection in the rearview mirror. "Silent now, are we?" Maya offered no response. "What transpired to all those liberties you were soliciting?" "I desire legal representation." He emitted a derisive laugh. "You people all memorize the same phrase." Maya gazed out the window. Harrington receded in fragmented segments. A shuttered pharmacy, a Baptist congregation displaying a placard inscribed, "God witnesses all." A fueling station where an elderly gentleman clad in a raincoat stared as the cruiser passed. She speculated whether the dark sedan maintained its clandestine proximity. She could not discern it. That observation did not alleviate her apprehension. Upon arrival at the precinct, Harper maneuvered the vehicle into the rear lot, deliberately circumventing the main entrance and public service desk. He opened her door and abruptly hauled her out by the arm. "Exercise caution," she cautioned through gritted teeth. "The restraints are excessively constrictive." "You should have cooperated." "I did." "No, you performed." He marched her through a side ingress. Two uniformed officers adjacent to the break room looked up from their paper plates of pizza. One of them offered a condescending smirk upon observing her oil-stained attire. "Troubled evening?" he inquired. Harper grinned. "Apprehended this one lurking around the federal courthouse." Maya continued her progression. She resolved not to yield to their provocations. Not yet. Detective Sloan met them outside interview chamber 2. He was in his late 40s, Caucasian, impeccably attired, with weary eyes and the mellifluous cadence of an individual who favored veiled threats over explicit pronouncements. He surveyed Maya's lacerated countenance, then directed his attention to Harper. "What transpired to her?" "She resisted apprehension," Maya asserted. "He forcibly pressed my visage against the wall and propelled me into refuse containers." Sloan made no notation. He opened the door. "Be seated." The chamber was diminutive and frigid, constructed of cinder blocks, furnished with a metal table, 2 chairs, and a camera mounted in the corner. Maya seated herself with deliberate care, her wrists still bound behind her. Harper deposited her backpack onto the table. Her cellular device, identification, and diminished sense of self-respect were absent. Sloan assumed a position opposite her and opened a dossier that appeared to contain minimal information at that juncture. "Maya Williams," he stated, "a contract custodian new to this locale, discovered outside a federal courthouse subsequent to operational hours, bearing a satchel and declining a lawful inspection. I was proceeding towards the bus stop. You were in proximity to a restricted facility. I am employed within that facility. Post-operational hours. My shift is post-operational hours." Sloan offered a faint smile. "Do you perceive how that sounds?" "It sounds like employment," Harper scoffed from his vantage point in the corner. Sloan interlaced his hands. "Here is our proposed course of action. You will assist us in comprehending your presence outside that courthouse, the contents of your conveyance, and whether any internal personnel facilitated your access to restricted zones. Consequently, this matter can remain uncomplicated. I demand legal counsel. You shall not require it if you speak truthfully. I demand legal counsel." Sloan's smile contracted. "Maya, this is not the opportune moment to adopt a stoic demeanor. Officer Harper opines that a potential terrorist element may be involved." "There is none." "Then affix your signature to a declaration affirming your unauthorized presence in the restricted zone, your defiance of official directives, and your initiation of a security alert. We may then advocate for a minor infraction, perhaps trespassing, possibly obstruction. You will be discharged tomorrow." "I shall not endorse a falsehood," Harper advanced. "Are you privy to that, Sloan? She believes she dictates the terms." Maya regarded him. "I believe I possess rights." Harper leaned across the table. "You possessed an identification that was potentially counterfeit, a receptacle that you refused to disclose, And you were observed in proximity to a courthouse where security systems have been exhibiting anomalous behavior for weeks. Do you expect us to accept that all of this is mere coincidence?
Maya's pulse accelerated, yet her expression remained impassive. Security systems. Thus, Harper possessed foreknowledge, or someone had furnished him with the predetermined script. Sloane observed her silence. That piqued your interest? I demand legal counsel. The portal opened before Sloane could respond. A uniformed sergeant protruded his head. Detective, federal agents are present. Sloane frowned. Regarding this federal courthouse. They stated they were notified automatically. Harper cursed under his breath. Several minutes later, Special Agent Nathan Cole entered the chamber. He was an African-American male in his early 40s, clean-shaven, attired in a dark suit, its shoulders slightly damp from the rainfall. He carried himself with the bearing of an individual who had endured prolonged periods of underestimation and had learned to permit others to do so until it incurred a penalty. His gaze first alighted upon Maya's countenance, then her wrists, and finally Harper. Why is she still restrained? Harper inquired.
She resisted apprehension. Nathan regarded Maya. Did you? No, Sloane interjected. Agent Cole, she was detained outside the courthouse under circumstances warranting suspicion. We are currently in the process of clarification. Nathan placed a tablet device upon the table. Subsequently, let us engage in clarification. He solicited her full appellation and date of birth. Maya provided both. He commenced typing. The chamber devolved into silence, punctuated solely by the low hum of the fluorescent illumination. Abruptly, the tablet device became unresponsive. Nathan's demeanor shifted. He tapped once. Nothing occurred. He tapped again. A crimson alert message materialized on the screen. Restricted defense clearance. Contact Department of Defense without delay. Harper squinted. What precisely is that? Nathan offered no reply. He re-examined Maya, and at this juncture, his gaze conveyed unambiguous calculation.
Maya Williams, he articulated deliberately. Are there any aspects of your federal standing you wish to disclose? Mia met his gaze. Not within this chamber. Sloane leaned back. What is the implication of that statement? Nathan retrieved his mobile device and proceeded towards the corner. It signifies that all discourse must cease. Harper emitted a solitary, derisive chuckle. Come now, she's merely a custodian. Nathan turned to confront him. Officer, at this precise moment, the custodian possesses a federal restriction flag that supersedes the authority of this entire establishment. Silence ensued. 10 minutes later, every telephone within the precinct appeared to ring simultaneously. The captain descended the corridor, his countenance pallid and his demeanor agitated, trailed by a desk officer who whispered that the Pentagon was on the primary line. Harper's self-assurance visibly receded with each passing moment. Captain entered the chamber and regarded Maya as if encountering her for the first time. Miss Williams, we have received instructions to suspend all questioning. Maya elevated her cuffed wrists to the utmost extent of her capability. Then commence herein. Nathan positioned himself behind her and personally removed the restraints. The metallic components detached from her skin with a stinging sensation. Crimson indentations encircled both wrists. One had begun to hemorrhage. Harper stared, dumbfounded. This is preposterous. The captain snapped. Officer Harper, you are relieved from this interview. Await instruction in conference room B. For performing my duty? For initiating a federal incident? Harper's oral cavity opened, yet no coherent utterance emerged. He departed, slamming the door with such force that the camera vibrated. Nathan placed a paper towel beside Maya. Your face is bleeding. I am aware.
Do you require medical attention? Subsequently, Sloan regained his vocalization. Agent Cole, we still harbor concerns regarding a potential courthouse breach. Nathan regarded him with an icy demeanor. As does the Pentagon. Outside the interview chamber, tires emitted a hissing sound across the damp parking lot. One black SUV entered, followed by another, then 4 more. Doors opened in rapid succession. Men and women clad in dark coats emerged into the rainfall, moving with the composed velocity of individuals who did not seek local authorization. Raymond Torres entered the station 5 minutes later. He was in his 50s, with streaks of gray at his temples and a visage seemingly sculpted for delivering unwelcome tidings. A Department of Defense credential dangled from his hand. He observed Nathan, then Sloan, and finally Maya. "Miss Williams," Torres articulated, "are you compromised?" Maya touched the abrasion on her cheek. Then she directed her gaze towards the table where her backpack ought to have been meticulously inventoried, but was not. "Not yet," she stated, "but the courthouse is." Torres's eyes narrowed. Sloan shifted his posture. "What is the implication of that declaration?" Maya turned to face him. Her composure now possessed a quality that imparted a chill to the room. "It signifies that an individual within the Harrington Federal Courthouse is disposing of items that should never depart a secure archival repository." Torres advanced a single step. "What did you discover?" Maya glanced towards the camera in the corner. "Initially," she declared, "I require my legal representative. Subsequently, I demand my backpack, my identification, my telephone, and the refuse sack that Officer Harper seized as evidence." "The refuse sack?" Nathan inquired. Maya nodded. "Because if my assessment is accurate, Detective, this did not commence when your officer propelled me into refuse." Her voice lowered. "It began when someone within that courthouse decreed that American cognomens were subject to transaction. By 3:18 a.m., the rainfall had abated to a fine, silvery mist. However, the Harrington Police Department presented an interior tableau reminiscent of a storm's aftermath. Officers congregated in close proximity, conversing in hushed tones near vending machines and partially ajar office doorways. Telephones rang incessantly. A captain who had exhibited an air of boredom an hour prior now paced behind the main desk, his tie loosened and his countenance devoid of color. Every few seconds, an individual would cast a glance in Maya Williams's direction, as if she had undergone a metamorphosis. She occupied a chair adjacent to interview chamber 2, applying a paper towel to her abraded cheek. The bleeding had diminished, but the skin exhibited a burning sensation. Her wrists throbbed where the restraints had inflicted indentations. The odor of motor oil still permeated her trousers. Raymond Torres stood opposite her, perusing a tablet device while 2 Department of Defense agents documented her injuries. Nathan Cole engaged in a quiet conversation with a captain near the corridor. Detective Sloan lingered by the coffee dispenser, endeavoring to project an aura of utility while remaining inconspicuous. Maya addressed Torres. "Where's the refuse bag?" Torres lowered the tablet. "Evidence intake. It indicates Harper logged your backpack and telephone. No refuse bag." Maya's gaze hardened. "He retrieved it from the pavement. He did not formally record it. Then, someone instructed him not to." Torres studied her for a moment. "Are you certain of its significance?" "I discovered a fractured USB drive within one precisely like it, torn stationery from Judge Holloway's chambers, a partial compilation of coded designations. I concealed what I could before the camera reactivated." Nathan approached, arriving precisely in time to apprehend the concluding statement. "What camera?" "The basement disposal area. It went offline for 12 minutes. He directed his attention to Torres. That correlates with the courthouse maintenance alert we received last week. They categorized it as a technical anomaly. It was not. Maya asserted that it had been timed. Torres slipped the tablet beneath one arm. Then we shall return to the courthouse. The captain drew nearer. At this hour. Torres regarded him with an impassive expression, particularly concerning this late hour. 20 minutes later, Maya stood outside the Harrington Federal Courthouse once more, but this time she was not unaccompanied. Two black SUVs idled at the curb. Federal agents moved with discreet haste beneath the illumination. Nathan presented his badge at the security checkpoint while Torres conversed with a visibly agitated building supervisor who had evidently been roused from slumber and conveyed without sufficient time for personal grooming. Maya observed her own employee identification badge within an evidence sleeve in Nathan's possession. The sight of it engendered a subtle relaxation within her chest. The main portal swung open, releasing a current of warm, stale air from the interior lobby. The marble flooring gleamed under the security lighting. The courthouse was enveloped in silence, save for the faint resonance of electrical systems and the distant clatter of plumbing. Lena Brooks awaited them near the service corridor, clad in a long coat over her night attire, her graying hair secured by a navy scarf. The instant she perceived Mia's bruised visage, her mouth fell agape. "Merciful heavens," Lena whispered. She advanced and gently touched Mia's chin, turning her face towards the light. "Child, who inflicted this upon you?" Mia remained silent for a period, her throat constricted, a sensation that irked her more than the physical pain. "Officer Harper," Nathan stated. Lena's eyes flashed. That man always strode as if the sidewalk owed him rent. Torres stepped forward. "Mrs. Brooks, we require your assistance in retracing the night's custodial route." Lena examined his credentials, then directed her gaze to Maya. "Is this regarding those bags?" Mia's eyes ascended. "You noticed them as well?" "Child, I have been observing anomalies within this establishment since long before many of these attorneys incurred student loan debt." Lena lowered her voice. "Every Thursday, a solitary black sack positioned adjacent to the secure receptacles, devoid of any markings, initials, or pickup documentation. I rationalized it as an act of indolence. However, indolence does not manifest on a predetermined schedule." They proceeded down the service corridor. Maya guided them past the employee lockers, the supply closet, and the freight elevator that emitted a groan before commencing its ascent. Nathan made notations. Torres meticulously observed every element: cameras, portals, card readers, and shadowed corners. In the basement, the atmosphere was imbued with the scent of bleach, damp concrete, and aged paper. Maya halted near the secure disposal area. "This is where I discovered it," she declared. The gray shredding receptacles stood against the wall, secured by locks and clearly labeled. Adjacent to them, the floor was now pristine, an immaculate condition indicative of deliberate scrubbing. Nathan crouched and traced a finger along the concrete surface. Still damp. Lena crossed her arms. The cleaning crew did not perform that. Not in this section. Not this evening. Torres turned to the building supervisor who had accessed this level after midnight. The man swallowed and manipulated a tablet device. "Custodial personnel. Miss Williams and Mrs. Brooks. Security guard at 127. Subsequently, no individuals until your team arrived." Maya stated that this was inaccurate. The supervisor stiffened. "That is what the system indicates." "Then the system is perpetrating a deception." Nathan pointed to the camera positioned above the secure receptacles. "Retrieve the footage." The supervisor hesitated. Torres did not elevate his voice. It was unnecessary. A few minutes later, they convened in the security office. The on-duty guard, a robust individual with weary eyes, replayed the basement feed. Maya observed herself entering with a cleaning cart. She watched the time display advance. Then, at 12:41 a.m., the image froze. It remained static for precisely 12 minutes. When the feed resumed, Maya was standing again. Resecuring the black bag, Nathan leaned closer. That is not a power interruption. The timestamp continued to advance, Torres remarked, a looped image. The guard shook his head. I lack the authorization to perform such an action. Who possesses it? Torres inquired. The supervisor's countenance turned ashen. Maya responded before he could articulate. Administrative security, specifically chambers with elevated clearance. No one uttered Holloway's appellation, yet it permeated the chamber nonetheless. Torres directed his attention to Nathan. Procure the access logs. They located Aaron Miles within the IT office on the second floor, attired in a rumpled shirt, spectacles, and bearing an expression suggesting prolonged apprehension. He offered no denial. Upon Nathan presenting the frozen footage, Aaron sat down slowly. I flagged that on 3 occasions. To whom? Nathan inquired. Court administration. Then Judge Holloway's clerk informed me it was a recognized issue and to cease wasting time. Torres placed both hands on the back of a chair. Can you restore the original feed? Aaron glanced towards the doorway as if anticipating an arrival. Perhaps, if it has not been overwritten. Attempt it. Aaron's digits moved across the keyboard. Lines of system data filled the monitor. Maya stood behind him, arms clasped, reading with unexpected rapidity. The archaic segment of her psyche, the portion she had endeavored to suppress, reawakened with pristine clarity and frigidity. There, she stated, a remote session. Aaron froze. How did you ascertain that? Because whoever executed this neglected to secure the rear portal. He clicked into the log. A user credential materialized, masked yet not entirely expunged. It traced back to a judicial administrative account. Holloway Chambers, Lena whispered. Sweet Jesus. Aaron pushed himself away from the desk. I was unaware of what they were transporting, I swear. Maya regarded him. But you sensed an anomaly. He lowered his gaze. Within this establishment, recognizing that something is amiss does not equate to knowing whom it is safe to inform. Torres's telephone vibrated. He read the message, his jaw tightening. Your backpack inventory has just been processed. The fractured USB drive is absent. Maya closed her eyes for a fleeting instant. Harper, Nathan stated. Perhaps, Torres responded. Or someone accessed it prior to evidence intake. Maya opened her eyes and gazed in the direction of the hallway leading to the upper levels, towards the chambers where judges presided with an assumed exemption from terrestrial constraints. They are aware we are investigating, she declared. Torres nodded. Then we shall expedite our investigation. Lena reached into the pocket of her coat and withdrew a folded paper towel. Within it lay a minuscule strip of cream-colored stationery, its edge torn and bearing an impression of a partial seal. Maya gazed at it. Lena stated, I discovered this last Thursday. I held on to it because something about it felt off. On the slip were 3 cryptic names and half of an international account designation. Torres accepted it with utmost care as if it were unstable ordnance. Maya glanced at the elderly woman who had spent 2 decades tidying up after influential individuals and offered a smile, the first that night, though it strained her cheek. Lena Brooks had just provided them with the initial fragment of the courthouse's clandestine core. The scrap of stationery Lena Brooks had preserved appeared insignificant under the glow of the security office lights. It was merely off-white paper torn along one edge, bearing 3 coded names and the partial international account number printed so faintly that an exhausted clerk might have dismissed it as printer alignment marks. Raymond Torres did not overlook it. He held it with gloved hands and studied it for an extended period. Where precisely did you find this? Lena stood beside Maya, Her arms crossed over her coat. Third floor service refuse, just outside Judge Holloway's chambers, last Thursday night. You kept it for a week. I am 64 years old, not foolish, Lena replied, when paper from a judge's office begins to resemble something from a clandestine operation. I don't discard it with used coffee grounds. Nathan Cole nearly smiled, but Torres remained stoic. Maya leaned in closer. The first name, Vesper 3, that's not a court identifier. Torres looked at her. You recognize it? Not the individual, the pattern. Maya's voice was hushed. An operational alias, a field operative or an embedded informant. Perhaps someone abroad. Perhaps someone integrated here. Regardless, it doesn't belong in a courthouse refuse bag. A hush fell over the room. Aaron Miles, still seated at the IT workstation, rubbed both hands over his face. I assumed it was financial. I believed perhaps Holloway was concealing payments or favors.
I had no idea it was this.
You flagged the camera footage, Nathan stated. What else did you observe? Aaron hesitated. Torres moved nearer. Mr. Miles, if there is a roster of American undercover assets moving through this courthouse, your delay could endanger lives. Aaron's complexion turned ashen. There were documents, not many, small bundles presented as archived legal briefs. They originated from sealed cases and administrative files. Every Thursday evening, someone compressed them, duplicated them, and then erased the access history. Who? Nathan inquired. I couldn't establish proof. The access credentials were routed through various accounts. Maya gestured toward his monitor. Retrieve the logs for the last 4 Thursdays. Don't search for names. Focus on the timing patterns. Aaron blinked at her. She's correct, Torres affirmed. Aaron typed with haste. Columns of access records materialized. Maya observed the timestamps, not the designations. Labels can be fabricated. Habits are more challenging to conceal. There, she declared, each data transfer commences within 6 minutes after Holloway's private elevator descends to the basement. Nathan turned to the building supervisor. Private elevator? The man swallowed. Judges have restricted access between their chambers, the court levels, and the secure parking facility. Does it connect to the basement disposal area? Torres inquired. Not directly, but it opens near the records corridor. Maya looked at Lena. The hallway with the grey door. Lena nodded. The one no one is permitted to use after 10. Nathan retrieved his mobile phone. I need the records corridor secured. Torres gently halted him. If Holloway detects activity too soon, we'll lose the thread. They proceeded upstairs before daybreak, traversing a courthouse that now felt less dormant and more as if it were holding its breath. Maya passed silent courtrooms and locked offices, each doorway gleaming, each brass nameplate reflecting a borrowed prestige. She thought of the individuals who had frequented this place, dressed in their finest, hoping justice would prevail. She wondered how many had departed in ruin because someone on an upper level had profited from the truth. The records corridor was confined, lacked windows, and was colder than the remainder of the structure. Aaron employed a master key with trembling hands. The grey door swung open to a small archival chamber lined with shelves and secured cabinets. Initially, nothing appeared amiss. Then Maya noticed the floor. Stop, she commanded. Everyone froze. She knelt near the lowest shelf. Faint tracks from wheels were visible in the dust, too precise and too recent. A cart had been moved there frequently, always along the identical path. She followed the marks to a cabinet marked Sealed Civil Proceedings, 2019 to 2024. Nathan attempted the handle. Locked. The supervisor confirmed that only judicial chambers and senior records personnel possessed access. Torres looked at Aaron. Aaron entered a code into the wall panel. The cabinet unlocked with a click. Within were files that should have remained undisturbed, yet several folders had been replaced with blank inserts. Others contained only incomplete records, evidence logs lacking signatures, motions without accompanying exhibits, sealed complaints with attachments removed. Julia Reyes arrived at the courthouse just as the initial pale light illuminated the windows. She was a young federal prosecutor with dark hair pulled back severely and a navy coat draped over a rumpled blouse. She appeared annoyed until Nathan presented her with the first folder. Then all color drained from her face. "This case," Julia stated. "I recognize this case." Maya observed her intently. Julia opened the folder on a nearby table.
North Star Biologics CEO accused of bribery, unlawful exports, obstruction. We possessed bank statements, witness testimonies, internal electronic communications. Then, the evidence index became corrupted. 2 exhibits disappeared, and Holloway dismissed half the charges in his chambers. "Who profited?" Torres inquired. "The CEO departed with a penalty less than his lakeside property taxes." Aaron emitted a cynical chuckle. "That sounds like Harrington justice." Julia flipped through another file and paused. "This one, too. Real estate fraud. Elderly homeowners forced out of Eastbrook. Records vanished before the hearing." Maya recalled Mrs. Patterson in her floral cardigan, warning her about the buses. After 9, Nathan opened a third folder. "Police misconduct lawsuit. Plaintiff Marcus Bell on behalf of his brother Darnell Bell." Julia's expression tightened. Darnell Bell is serving 22 years. His appeal contended that evidence was withheld. "Was it?" Maya asked. Julia looked at the vacant exhibit sleeve. "It appears someone ensured we couldn't ascertain that." Torres's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen, then at Maya. Defense database cross-reference just concluded. One of the coded aliases on Lena's paper is linked to a protected American intelligence operative in Eastern Europe. Current status, classified. The room grew silent once more. But this silence carried a greater weight, Lena whispered. "So this isn't merely wealthy individuals buying their freedom." "No," Maya responded. "This is wealthier individuals selling others into obscurity." Julia closed the folder with hands that trembled. A federal courthouse cannot be utilized for such purposes. Maya surveyed the missing documents, the pristine gaps, the cabinets that had yielded to improper hands. "A courthouse can be constructed from marble," she remarked, "and still decay from its foundation." Nathan turned to Torres. "We require warrants." Torres shook his head. "We need more than misplaced files. We require the conduit, who duplicates it, who transports it, who finances it, and who receives it." Aaron swallowed. "There may be a transfer point." All eyes turned to him. He gestured toward the ceiling. "Judge Holloway's chambers possess an offline backup terminal. Officially, it's for confidential judgments and urgent directives, but if someone utilized it to stage documents, they could move data without triggering standard alerts." "Can you access it?" Nathan asked. "Not without Holloway's knowledge." Maya looked at the folders, then at the scrap of paper in Torres's hand. "Then we don't activate the terminal yet." Torres nodded slowly. "We observe it." Julia exhaled. "And what do we do about the individuals already harmed?" No one responded immediately. Then Nathan held up the Bell file. "We commence with someone whose life they have already buried." By 8 o'clock that morning, Marcus Bell's name was inscribed on Nathan's notepad. Judge Holloway's chambers were under discreet federal surveillance, and Maya Williams comprehended that the refuse bag had not contained a mere clue. It had contained the precipice of a grave. Marcus Bell resided above a barber shop on Eastbrook Avenue, in a second-floor apartment that carried a faint aroma of coffee, furniture polish, and aged paper.
By the time Nathan Cole knocked on his door, Harrington was fully awake. Delivery vehicles rumbled past corner establishments. Retired gentlemen stood outside the diner, engaged in a debate about baseball. A woman in sensible church shoes swept rainwater from her doorstep as if dispelling misfortune. Marcus opened the door, a mug in one hand and suspicion in both eyes. "UFBI?" he inquired. Nathan held up his identification. "Special Agent Cole. This is Raymond Torres with the Department of Defense. This is Maya Williams."
Marcus observed Mia's abraded cheek, her bandaged wrists, and the oil stain still faintly visible on one knee of her work pants.
His expression shifted almost imperceptibly. "You're the woman from the courthouse." Maya nodded. "I am also the reason we located your brother's file." This prompted him to open the door wider. The apartment was modest but meticulously maintained. A folded American flag rested in a wooden case on a shelf alongside photographs of two young black men in uniform. One was Marcus. The other, Maya surmised, was Darnell Bell before incarceration had extinguished the light in his eyes. Drawings from a child named Kayla adorned the refrigerator. "All suns and stick figures and purple houses," Marcus remarked, setting down his mug. "I submitted complaints for 6 years. City police, state police, the court clerk's office, the public defender's office, the civil rights hotline. Everyone offered me the same response. Missing evidence doesn't prove misconduct. It merely signifies absent evidence." Nathan placed the folder on the kitchen table. "Your brother's sealed evidence sleeve was empty." Marcus stared at it as if it posed a threat. "Empty. Yes." Marcus sat down slowly. There was dash camera footage, a gas station receipt, a witness who saw Darnell across town when they claimed he was robbing that pharmacy. All of it vanished before the appeal. Julia Reyes had joined them in the hallway, still clutching a legal pad to her chest. "Mr. Bell, I reviewed the court record this morning. Judge Holloway denied your brother's evidentiary hearing in chambers." Marcus emitted a sardonic laugh. "Your Honor, Holloway." The man smiled at my mother and informed her the court had fulfilled its obligation. She thanked him. Can you fathom that? My mother thanked the individual who interred her son. Maya felt that statement resonate deeply. "We suspect your brother's case might be part of something larger." "How much larger?" Torres inquired.
Sufficiently extensive to involve sealed federal records, financial malfeasance, and potentially the illicit sale of protected American intelligence information. Marcus looked from Torres to Nathan, then back to Maya. "You're suggesting the same courthouse that misplaced my brother's evidence is trading in secrets?" Maya responded, "That is precisely what we are endeavoring to confirm." Marcus pushed back from the table and walked to the window. Outside, an elderly gentleman in a denim jacket was unlocking the barber shop below. "Do you know what frustrates me? People imagine corruption appears dramatic. Envelopes of cash, individuals whispering in alleyways. But at times, it manifests as a clerk stating, 'I'm sorry, sir, the file is unavailable.' At times, it appears as a judge clearing his throat." Nathan stated, "Would you be willing to provide a formal statement?" Marcus turned. "Against Holloway? Against the system that eradicated your brother's evidence?" Marcus looked at the child's drawings on the refrigerator. "My daughter inquires why Uncle Darnell cannot attend her school plays. What am I expected to tell her? That the truth was simply misplaced?" No one offered a reply. Finally, Marcus nodded. "I will speak, but I will not become another file they misplace." "You won't," Nathan assured him. Maya hoped that was the case. They departed Marcus's building with copies of his complaint letters and the name of a gas station attendant who had vanished from the witness list years prior. Outside, Lena Brooks waited, cloaked in Maya's borrowed coat, feigning indifference to the chill.
Maya, Lena said softly, you must consume something. I'm perfectly fine. You were tossed into refuse, dragged through a police precinct, and embroiled in a federal investigation before breakfast. You are not fine. You are merely standing upright. Torres checked his phone. We have 10 minutes. Lena gestured down the block.
Then we're heading to Shirley's. Shirley's Diner occupied the corner of Eastbrook and Mason, boasting red vinyl booths, a pie display by the cash register, and a television mounted above the coffee machine. The majority of the patrons were past 50, the sort who still perused local newspapers and addressed waitresses as honey without any untoward intent. They looked up as Maya entered, not with outright hostility, but with the attentive curiosity of a neighborhood that could discern trouble on a damp morning. Shirley, herself, a white woman in her late 60s with reading glasses suspended from a chain, emerged from behind the counter. Lena Brooks, you're bringing federal agents into my diner before noon. I'm going to charge extra. Lena responded, put the coffee on. Make it strong. They occupied a booth in the rear. Maya wrapped both hands around the mug, allowing its warmth to steady her fingers. Nathan spread his notes across the table. Julia sketched the timeline on a napkin.
Torres took a single bite of toast and then forgot about it. Aaron Miles called 9:42. His voice was strained. I've discovered something. Nathan put him on speakerphone. Proceed. I tracked the Thursday transmissions. They aren't routed directly. They pass through a local shell server, then through accounts linked to legal service providers, translation agencies, document review firms, but one designation consistently reappears. Which designation? Torres inquired. The Ledger Group. Julia's pen movement ceased. Maya looked at Torres. You're familiar with it? Not officially. That means yes. Torres leaned closer to the phone. Aaron, transmit the tracing data to my secure address. I can't from the courthouse. I copied a portion, but I suspect they are aware. My access has just been restricted. Nathan sat up straighter. Where are you? A silence followed on the line. Aaron, Maya stated. I shouldn't have called from here. Where are you? Nathan repeated. A door slammed in the background. Aaron breathed heavily. It's a storage room, second floor. Someone just accessed the hallway using a badge. Stay where you are, Nathan instructed. Lock the door. I did. Another sound emanated through the receiver, dull and resonant, like a shoulder impacting wood. Aaron whispered, They aren't using keys. The line went dead. Nathan was already out of the booth. Torres tossed cash onto the table. Lena grasped Mia's arm. You should remain. Mia stood. I recognized that hallway. The journey back to the courthouse took 4 minutes, but felt considerably longer. Federal agents met them at the service entrance. Nathan drew his weapon before they reached the second floor. The IT storage room door hung ajar. Inside, a chair was overturned. A monitor displayed a blank login screen. Aaron's spectacles lay shattered near a shelf of cables. A small quantity of blood was visible on the desk's edge, but more was present on the floor, partially concealed beneath a server manual. There was a sticky note bearing 2 words in Aaron's hurried script. Ledger, tonight. Maya retrieved it with gloved fingers. Torres surveyed the empty room, then looked down the corridor toward the elevator designated for judicial chambers. This is no longer merely corruption, Nathan observed. Maya's voice was devoid of emotion. It never was. At the far end of the corridor, the elevator doors closed with a faint chime. For an instant, Mia perceived a reflection in the polished metal. A tall man in a dark suit, silver hair, composed demeanor. Judge Richard Holloway ascended without looking back. The elevator doors shut before Nathan could reach them. He pressed the call button twice, then turned toward the stairwell. Torres, secure the garage. No one exits. Torres was already on his phone, his voice low and firm. Seal judicial parking.
Service exits, the loading dock, and chamber access. Discreetly. Do not alert him or you risk this entire operation being incinerated before lunch. Maya stood in the IT hallway, Aaron's fractured spectacles in her hand. The blood on the desk was still moist. Not enough to confirm severe injury, but sufficient to demonstrate an intent to instill fear. Lena appeared at the stairwell entrance, her breathing labored. "Where is Aaron?" Nathan looked at her and offered no reply. Lena's expression hardened. "Don't just stand there silently. That boy still has a mother in Portsmouth. We are going to find him." Maya stated, "We will." Lena looked at Mia's scraped face, then at the bloody desk. "This building consumes people." Mia folded Aaron's sticky note into an evidence sleeve. "Ledger tonight." 2 words. A warning, a schedule, perhaps a death sentence. Then her phone rang. Everyone paused. Maya looked down. Unknown number. Torres advised, "Put it on speaker." Maya answered, holding for 2 seconds. Only breathing could be heard. Then a distorted voice emerged, low and metallic. "Maya Williams?" She did not flinch. "Who is this? Someone offering you a single opportunity?" Nathan moved closer. Torres signaled a technician to trace the call. The voice continued. "Leave the courthouse. Return to whatever meager existence you crawled out of. Continue cleaning floors. Continue emptying trash. Forget what you witnessed." Maya's grip on the phone intensified. "Where is Aaron Miles?" A soft chuckle. "The IT boy should have exercised better judgment." Lena whispered, "Lord." Maya maintained a steady tone. "If you have harmed him, you have only worsened the situation." "No, Miss Williams, you exacerbated it when you picked up something that did not belong to you." "It was in the trash." "Precisely, where individuals like yourself are expected to look, not to ponder." The line disconnected. The technician shook his head.
Burner phone routed through 3 intermediaries. No clean trace. Maya lowered the phone. Nathan observed her intently. "Are you all right?" "No." It was the most candid answer she had provided all night. By noon, the narrative had disseminated beyond the building, but not as the unvarnished truth. The inaugural headline appeared on a local news website. Former defense contractor janitor questioned in federal courthouse security incident. An hour later, a cable channel utilized her employee badge photograph, the same badge Harper had discarded in the rain, and placed it alongside the words, "Possible breach." By 2 o'clock, individuals who had never encountered her were labeling her unstable, suspicious, radical, and dangerous. A commentator with silver hair and a flag pin queried why a woman with defense connections was employed as a janitor in a federal courthouse. Another asserted, that alone should prompt scrutiny. Maya observed this on a muted television in a temporary federal conference room. Her bandaged wrists rested on the table. Her cheek had been cleaned, but the abrasion still showed angry red through the ointment. "They are fabricating me as the perpetrator," she stated. Torres stood by the window. "That is the most ancient stratagem in the playbook." Nathan placed a stack of documents on the table. Harper amended his report. Maya looked up, already exasperated. Nathan opened the folder. First, suspicious individual, then suspected breach. Now he claims he observed you near restricted areas on multiple previous nights. That's impossible. He never saw me before last night. I am aware. Julia Reyes entered, carrying a laptop under one arm and exhaustion etched on her face. Detective Sloan signed a corroborating memorandum. It states, "Your refusal to consent suggested concealment of materials related to courthouse sabotage." Maya emitted a humorless laugh. "Sabotage." Julia sat opposite her. "They are constructing a paper prison." Lena, who had refused to depart,
poured overbrewed coffee from a courthouse pot into a paper cup. Darling, men of that caliber do not require truth. They merely require sufficient documentation to legitimize a falsehood. Nathan's phone vibrated. He read the message and uttered a curse. Julia, your office has placed you under administrative review. Julia froze. For what? Unauthorized collaboration with an external inquiry. Julia slowly closed her laptop. Holloway. Torres looked up. He's acting swiftly. A federal agent entered the room. We located Aaron's vehicle in the employee garage. His phone was in the glove compartment. No sign of him. Lena placed a hand over her mouth. Maya stood. He told us ledger tonight. That implies the transfer has not yet occurred. Or it means he wanted us to believe that, Torres countered. No, Maya stated, pointing at the note. He penned it while a break-in was underway.
There was no opportunity for deception.
Nathan concurred. She speaks the truth. Torres's mobile chirped. He responded, listened intently, his demeanor hardening. Repeat that, please. All eyes were on him. Upon concluding the call, his gaze fell upon Maya. Marcus Bell had reported a dark-colored SUV lurking near his daughter's educational institution. The license plates were flagged as stolen. Maya closed her eyes for a fleeting instant. Aaron vanished. Julia faced suspension. Lena felt menaced by the very structure she inhabited. Marcus's child was now perilously close to the inferno. The calculated arrangement was no longer concealed. They weren't merely obscuring their actions. Maya articulated that they were educating witnesses on the consequences of speaking out. At that precise moment, the conference room portal swung open. Judge Richard Holloway materialized in the threshold. He was attired in a dark, impeccably tailored suit, a silver necktie, and the serene visage of an individual whose name had been a key to every door within the building for 2 decades. Escorting him were 2 court enforcement officers and a court scribe Maya recognized from the 3rd level. Agent Cole, Holloway announced. Mr. Torres, I was apprised of unusual occurrences within my judicial premises. Torres remained motionless. Your judicial premises? Holloway offered a polite smile. A figure of speech. His eyes shifted to Maya. They lingered on her abraded cheek, then on the dressing on her wrist. There was no astonishment in his expression, no commiseration. Miss Williams, he addressed her, I understand your evening has been taxing. Maya offered no reply. Holloway advanced into the chamber. I am also aware that you handled official documents beyond the scope of your permitted custody. Nathan stood. Exercise caution, Your Honor. No, Agent Cole. Caution is precisely what I am employing. Holloway presented a document to the clerk, who placed it upon the table. Effective immediately, I am issuing a preservation mandate and initiating an internal judicial inquiry concerning potential unauthorized access to confidential court systems by Maya Williams. Julia gazed intently at the paper. You are accusing her? I am safeguarding this institution. Maya finally found her voice. You mean safeguarding yourself? The room fell into an expectant hush. Holloway turned to face her fully, his smile tightening. Miss Williams, tidying a courthouse does not bestow upon you the qualification to comprehend its inner workings. Maya observed the man, then the emblem on the document, then the receptacle for refuse beside his clerk's gleaming footwear. No, she responded softly. However, maintaining it has taught me where you conceal your shame. For the first time, Holloway's composure faltered. A mere flicker, yet Maya perceived it, and so did Torres. Holloway departed the conference chamber without raising his voice. Nevertheless, the damage he carried in that singular document propagated with alarming speed, far outstripping the impact of a shouted word. Within 30 minutes, Maya Williams was no longer characterized within the courthouse as a witness, a victim, or a night custodian who had unearthed something concealed amongst discarded items. She was reclassified as a subject of internal judicial review, then a security risk. Subsequently, by the time the initial internal communication reached a federal inbox, she was deemed a potential menace to confidential court systems. Nathan perused the directive twice. He stood in the corridor adjacent to the temporary command post. He is endeavoring to bury her under procedural red tape. Julia Reyes, now formally suspended, crossed her arms. That decree grants him license to seal every file we require.
Torres cast his gaze toward the elevator Holloway had utilized, and it furnishes him with grounds to assert that anything we discover was compromised by Maya. Maya stood near the window, observing rivulets of rainwater tracing paths down the glass. Beyond it, the city of Harrington proceeded with its ordinary rhythm. Buses hissed to a halt at the curbs. Pedestrians carried their provisions. A gentleman in a brown overcoat assisted his spouse across a glistening pedestrian crossing. Existence persisted because the majority remained oblivious to the possibility that a courthouse could transform into a hub of treachery. He is not merely protecting evidence, Maya stated. He is preparing a scapegoat. Nathan's phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen, his expression clouding. It is already unfolding. He turned the device toward her. A national news segment had seized upon the local incident. Maya's employee identification photo occupied one corner of the screen, juxtaposed with a headline. Former defense contractor linked courthouse employee under review following security breach. The anchor's voice emanated softly from the phone speaker. Questions are now being posed regarding how a contract janitor with prior defense connections gained access to sensitive areas within a federal courthouse. Lena Brooks, seated in the corner, her hands tightly gripping a paper cup of coffee, emitted a sound akin to glass shattering. They retrieved that child's identification from the rain merely to crucify her with it. Maya remained fixed on the screen. "Turn it off." Nathan complied. The ensuing silence felt more oppressive. Torres's phone rang. He answered, listened for under 10 seconds, then moved to the far extremity of the room. "Convey no information to local media. Preserve the digital trail. No, do not route it through courthouse servers." He paused. "Because I have explicitly instructed you not to." Upon hanging up, he looked at Maya. The Department of Defense confirms that one of the encrypted codenames from Lena's document corresponds to an active protected operative. We are not authorized to ascertain the individual's true identity in this room. Such is the gravity of this situation. Julia paled. "If that roster is disseminated tonight, someone could perish," Maya stated. No one contradicted her. Nathan unfurled a map of the courthouse across the table. Aaron was documenting transfers this evening. We are aware that these transactions occur on Thursdays. We know Holloway's offices are implicated. What eludes us is the location of the exchange. "The courthouse gala," Lena offered. All attention turned to her. She lifted her chin defiantly. "Do not regard me as mere decor. I am responsible for the upkeep of the event hall. Tonight marks the Harrington Justice Foundation's annual fundraiser. Judges, benefactors, law enforcement personnel, high-ranking officials, contractors, international legal representatives, all partaking in wine beneath that colossal banner, feigning ignorance of our existence." Julia nodded slowly. "That aligns with logic. Enhanced security, private chambers. No scrutiny is applied to sealed envelopes or encrypted drives circulating amongst prominent individuals." Nathan indicated a specific point on the map. "Grand ballroom, judicial reception chamber, private corridor, service kitchen." Maya stepped closer. "And waste disposal." Following the event, Torres studied her intently. "You surmise they utilize the custodial routes for material transit?" I contend they leverage what goes unnoticed, Maya responded. Discarded items, linen hampers, catering containers, cleaning supply closets. People observe briefcases, they do not observe refuse. Lina offered a grim nod.
Affluent individuals can step over a mop bucket as if it were irrelevant to their world.
Nathan regarded Maya. Can you identify the bag if you encounter it? If it originated from Holloway's chambers, yes. He employs white fabric ties, not plastic drawstrings. His clerk secures them with a double knot, left over right. Most individuals overlook knot formations. Torres almost smiled. You do not. Cleaning is methodical work. Before anyone could respond, an agent entered the chamber. We have encountered an issue. Local law enforcement has just submitted a request for a warrant pertaining to Miss Williams's quarters. Nathan turned. On what justification? Suspicion of pilfered court property and unauthorized possession of restricted materials. Maya met Torres's gaze. Holloway. Torres's jaw tightened. How swiftly? They are already en route. For the first time that day, Maya initiated an action without prior authorization. Her residence on Eastbrook Avenue was a 20-minute journey, yet Nathan covered it in 12, with the siren disengaged and the lights concealed. Upon their arrival, 2 police vehicles were stationed outside Mrs. Patterson's boarding establishment. Neighbors congregated on their porches despite the drizzle, their robes drawn tightly, their faces etched with concern and curiosity. Mrs. Patterson was engaged in a heated exchange with a uniformed officer half her age on the front steps. I informed you she rents a room here, not an arsenal, the elderly woman snapped. If you ransack my domicile, you had best bring both a divine intercessor and the budget for repairs. The officer, upon observing Nathan's identification, stepped back. Maya pushed past them and ascended the stairs. Her room had been completely overturned. The mattress was partially dislodged from the bed frame. Drawers hung open. Garments were strewn across the floor. Her heating element had been knocked over. The duffel bag from the closet lay open, its contents spilling out. Old uniforms were exposed, resembling skeletal remains unearthed from a burial site. A framed photograph, one of the few she still retained, had fallen, its glass shattering near the radiator. Maya crouched and gently retrieved it. The fractured pane left a thin crimson line across the image. 3 soldiers, bathed in desert luminescence, were captured in a smiling pose, embodying the carefree spirit of youth untouched by the devastating impact of a list of names. Nathan stood framed in the doorway. Quiet! Torres entered behind him, surveyed the room with a single glance, and remarked, They intended to intimidate you. They succeeded. Maya placed the photograph on the dresser. Nathan inquired, Do you wish to cease? She turned her attention to the compact television Mrs. Patterson had left for her upon her relocation. It remained on, muted, displaying her identification photo once more. Beneath it, the caption read, Janitor investigated in courthouse breach. Maya retrieved the remote control and deactivated the device. No. Torres observed her with keen attention. What is your objective? Maya's gaze swept across the disarrayed room, the exposed uniforms, the photograph fractured by shattered glass. She then contemplated Aaron's disappearance, the surveillance of Marcus's daughter, Lena clutching a paper cup with hands that had spent 2 decades tending to that courthouse. I require my refuse bag. Nathan exhibited a look of perplexity. The one Harper neglected to log. Precisely. Torres grasped the implication first. If he did not record it, he concealed it, or he entrusted it to someone. Maya elaborated. However, Harper is fearful. Intimidated individuals retain contingency plans. Nathan nodded slowly. Evidence repository, or his personal locker, or his patrol vehicle.
Maya retrieved her jacket from the floor and brushed off the accumulated dust.
The woman who had pleaded for her release outside the courthouse was no more.
In her stead stood an individual seemingly older than her years, more resilient than her injury suggested, and profoundly weary of allowing influential men to dictate her place. "Tonight, they are peddling identities," she declared. "Before they succeed, we must locate the refuse they overlooked." Nathan Cole expressed his dissent regarding the plan. He voiced his objection thrice before they reached the Harrington Police Department. On each occasion, Maya offered him the identical response: silence. By then, the afternoon had assumed a somber, heavy hue. Rain still lingered in the atmosphere, not a downpour, but sufficient to obscure windshields and cast the city in a fatigued light. Torres occupied the passenger seat, conversing in hushed tones into a secure telephone, arranging for the federal quarantine of all egress points from the courthouse prior to the commencement of the fundraiser.
Maya sat in the rear, her jacket zipped to her throat, her abraded cheek concealed by a slender bandage, her hands clasped over the contusions on her wrists. Nathan glanced at her via the rear-view mirror. "Do you comprehend? If Harper encounters you, he will panic. He is already in a state of panic. That renders him hazardous." Maya gazed out at the police station as it materialized into view. Excellent. Hazardous individuals commit errors when they are apprehensive. Torres concluded his conversation. "We will not confront him unless absolutely necessary. Our objective is to locate the refuse bag, secure the evidence, and depart." Nathan parked the vehicle a block distant from the rear access lot. "And if the bag is not present," Maya opened the door, "then we ascertain who he passed it to." They entered through the public vestibule this time, not the rear portal through which Harper had forcibly escorted her hours earlier. Minutes elapsed. A woman with a toddler sat on a bench. An elderly gentleman in a work jacket filled out a complaint form with trembling hands. Behind the reinforced glass, the desk sergeant looked up and froze upon recognizing Maya. Nathan displayed his badge. "We are here regarding an evidence review." "In the matter of Maya Williams's detainment," the sergeant swallowed. "The captain stipulated that all requests are to be directed through him." Torres stepped forward and presented his Department of Defense credentials against the glass. "Then contact him." The captain appeared in less than 2 minutes. His countenance appeared a decade older than it had before dawn. "Agent Cole, Mr. Torres, Miss Williams." He averted his eyes from Maya's name. "I understood the courthouse was your primary concern presently." "It remains so," Torres affirmed. "Your officer failed to log evidence procured at the scene." The captain's jaw tightened. "What evidence?" A black refuse bag collected from the service curb adjacent to the Harrington Federal Courthouse, Maya stated. The captain glanced in the direction of the hallway. That subtle movement was minute, yet Maya registered it. Nathan perceived it as well. "Where is Harper?" "Conference room B, pending administrative interview, with union representation." "Has his locker been secured?" The captain hesitated. Torres's voice adopted a flat, unyielding tone. "Captain, I issued an order for its security." "That is not what he inquired," Maya interjected. The captain then looked at her, truly observing her as if the woman before him no longer resembled the individual Harper had manhandled into his station. "No, not yet." Nathan moved first. The locker room reeked of damp uniforms, deodorant, gun oil, and stale coffee. 2 officers stood near the far wall, feigning disinterest. Nathan dismissed them. Torres stationed an agent at the entrance. The captain unlocked Harper's locker with a master key. Within, he found a spare shirt, a duty belt, a shaving kit, a partially depleted bottle of ibuprofen, and a gym bag. No refuse bag. Maya crouched and examined the locker's base. A smear of dark grime was present near the rear edge, mingled with coffee grounds. Insufficient for casual observation,
but perceptible to her. "It was here," she declared. Nathan opened the gym bag. Nothing. Torres regarded the captain, then his patrol vehicle. The captain closed his eyes for a brief moment. "This way." Harper's cruiser was parked in the rear lot, illuminated by a dim security lamp. Raindrops dotted its roof. Nathan opened the trunk while the captain stood rigidly beside him. Inside were traffic cones, flares, a first aid kit, bottled water, and a folded tarp. Maya leaned in, scanning slowly. Her gaze bypassed the expected items, alighting upon what was out of place. A single, fine strand of white cotton thread. Maya touched it with gloved fingers. Holloway's bags utilize white cotton ties. Nathan lifted the tarp. Beneath it lay the black refuse bag, secured with a double knot, left over right. For a moment, silence pervaded. Then, the station's entrance door slammed open behind them. Officer Dean Harper stepped into the rain, his face ashen, his eyes wild. "What in blazes are you doing with my vehicle?" Nathan straightened, holding aloft the unlogged evidence. Harper's gaze flickered to the bag, then to Maya, and a malevolent expression contorted his features. Fear attempting to morph into rage. "That is not evidence," he stated. "That is refuse." Maya stood slowly. "That is precisely what you implied about me." Harper pointed a finger at her. "You do not address me." Torres interceded, positioning himself between them. "Officer, you are currently under federal observation. I advise you to carefully consider your subsequent statement." Harper emitted a laugh, but it was strained and hollow. "Federal observation for what? Because some cleaning lady took offense?" Nathan advanced closer. "Because you neglected to log evidence pertaining to a federal courthouse security incident." "I neglected nothing. It was refuse." "Then why conceal it in your trunk?" Harper's eyes darted toward the captain, then away. "I intended to process it when I had the opportunity." "You had sufficient opportunity to amend your report on 3 separate occasions," Maya observed. Harper lunged a single step toward her. "You will cease your commentary." Nathan's hand moved toward his holster. Torres's agents shifted their positions. Harper halted, breathing heavily. Maya remained motionless. "You perceived me as insignificant," she stated. "A black janitor in the rain. You assumed you could document whatever suited your narrative. You were in a place you did not belong." "No, I was precisely where my duties required." "You were transporting illicit materials." Maya's gaze fixed upon the bag. "Materials you never officially recorded." Harper's facial muscles twitched. The captain whispered, "Dean, cease speaking." But the fear-driven individual continued. Harper turned on him. "No, Captain. I am weary of this pretense. I did as they instructed. I detained her. I fabricated the breach report. I held the bag as Sloan directed until someone from Chambers arrived to collect it." The words cascaded into the falling rain. Nathan inquired softly, "Who from Chambers?" Harper froze. Torres moved nearer. "Officer Harper, respond to the question." Harper's mouth opened, then closed. His eyes registered the dawning realization that he had irrevocably crossed a boundary. Maya stated, "Judge Holloway." Harper looked at her, his gaze filled with animosity, but devoid of denial. Nathan turned to the federal agents. "Detain him." Harper recoiled. "Wait, no. I am not the one disseminating anything." Torres's expression hardened. "Disseminating what?" Harper fell silent. The agents cuffed him. This time, there was no resistance, no forceful contact, no amusement. Merely the cold click of metal encircling a man who had believed such restraints were reserved for others.
Maya observed without any sense of triumph. Nathan unsealed the black refuse bag upon a pristine evidence sheet within the station's garage. Piece by piece, the truth began to emerge. Torn hallway stationery, a shredded transfer directive, a stained paper towel encasing a fractured plastic data chip, and a partial inscription on legal bond paper. Asset list verified. Beneath it, half of an international account number, correlating with the one Lena had preserved. Torres meticulously photographed each item. This directly implicates Holloway in the transfer. Maya delicately lifted a torn fragment with tweezers. Etched upon it was a time and location. 8:30 p.m., Grand Hall Service Corridor.
The fundraiser, Nathan deduced. Maya gazed toward the courthouse, its silhouette rising above the rain-slicked rooftops. Festivities would be unfolding there tonight. Gowns, benefactors, magistrates, law enforcement dignitaries, individuals proclaiming public service, all while clandestine dealings of lives transacted behind closed doors. Torres secured the evidence bag. We must depart before 8:30. Maya wiped a streak of rain from her bandaged cheek. No, Nathan frowned. No. If they detect agents first, they will flee. If they observe me, they will see only what they consistently perceive. Torres grasped the implication. A custodian. Maya nodded. Provide me with a cart, a uniform, and a designated refuse route. Nathan shook his head. Maya, that is excessively perilous. She looked at Harper, now seated in handcuffs within the garage, his bravado extinguished. So was walking home, she replied. At 8:12 p.m., the Harrington Federal Courthouse no longer presented the appearance of a crime scene. It radiated an atmosphere of celebration. The grand hall shimmered under chandeliers polished to such a brilliant sheen they seemed to emanate their own light. Crisp white tablecloths adorned long banquet tables. Silver platters showcased shrimp cocktails, miniature roast beef sandwiches, stuffed mushrooms, and delicate crab cakes. Delicacies beyond the casual means of any Eastbrook resident. A string quartet performed near the north staircase. Judges, patrons, prosecutors, police commanders, contractors, and visiting legal delegates mingled, champagne flutes in hand, with American flags displayed behind them. Wherever Maya directed her gaze, influential individuals were smiling. She entered through the service corridor, clad in a clean custodial uniform, pushing a gray refuse cart with a conspicuously squeaky front wheel. Lena had procured the uniform from the laundry facility and secured Maya's hair beneath a simple cap. A fresh bandage concealed the abrasion on her cheek. Her wrists ached beneath the sleeves of her uniform, yet her hands remained steady. Nathan's voice, barely audible, emanated from the tiny earpiece concealed beneath her collar. Audio check. Maya picked up an empty napkin from the cart and whispered, "Clear." Torres's voice followed. Federal teams are strategically positioned at all exits. We will initiate action only upon direct confirmation of the transfer. Maya propelled the cart into the grand hall. She was entirely unnoticed. A gentleman in a tuxedo stepped backward without looking, narrowly avoiding a collision with her cart. "Watch it," he muttered, still chuckling at a remark made by a judge. Maya lowered her eyes. "Yes, sir." Such was the peculiar power of her uniform. It rendered her invisible, yet strangely acceptable background noise. Individuals discarded plates onto her cart, handed her used glasses without a word of thanks, and conversed freely mere inches from her face, never once imagining that a cleaning woman could represent the most formidable presence in the room. Near the eastern wall, Judge Richard Holloway stood beneath a portrait of a deceased Chief Justice. He was conversing with a silver-haired patron and the woman Maya recognized from the courthouse security footage. The same woman who had been observed near the basement on the night the camera feed malfunctioned. Tonight, she wore a black gown, pearls, and the composed expression of someone
accustomed to traversing boundaries unimpeded. Torres's voice grew sharper. "Maya, confirm visual on Holloway." "Confirmed," she murmured. "Foreign operative, woman in black pearls, approximately 45 to 50 years of age. Identical facial features to footage from the basement." Nathan elaborated.
Do not approach until he moves towards the service corridor.
Maya continued her task of collecting refuse. She passed a table where Captain Wilkes of the Harrington police force was engaged in boisterous laughter with a councilman. Detective Sloan, clad in a somber suit, maintained a watchful presence nearby, his gaze perpetually in motion, abstaining from any refreshments. His attention briefly registered a cleaning cart before shifting away, his awareness not yet including Maya. At precisely 8:24, Holloway consulted his timepiece. 2 minutes later, at 8:26, a woman adorned in pearls delicately placed her unsipped champagne flute onto a serving tray and gracefully excused herself. By 8:28, Holloway was observed making his way towards the private service corridor situated behind the opulent Grand Hall. Maya, pushing her cart, followed in their wake, the fading strains of music serving as her sole accompaniment. The corridor narrowed, illuminated by the soft glow of wall sconces and the utilitarian red of emergency exit signs. Catering personnel, absorbed in their tasks, bustled in and out of the kitchen, seemingly oblivious to her presence. Holloway and the woman halted near a discreet alcove adjacent to the judicial reception room. Maya positioned her cart beside a pile of discarded boxes, retrieved a liner from her roll, and bent as if to replace a bin bag. Her hand inadvertently grazed the recording device clipped beneath the cart's handle. Holloway initiated the exchange. "You were explicitly instructed not to re-enter the courthouse premises." The woman's voice betrayed a subtle foreign inflection, "and you were made aware that the agreed-upon compensation had been revised. The roster has undergone partial validation. The remaining individuals' identities are contained within the data drive." Maya's hand froze above the refuse liner. Torres whispered, "Continue recording." Holloway commanded, "The transaction will be finalized this evening. The North Star records will be expunged next week. The Eastbrook property disputes will be summarily dismissed due to procedural irregularities, and the Bell appeal will remain permanently shelved." Nathan's voice, a mere breath against Maya's ear, conveyed, "And the custodian," the woman interjected. Holloway emitted a soft chuckle. "Already attended to. She is presently undergoing an assessment for potential breaches of protocol. By tomorrow, every headline will characterize her as unstable. Should circumstances necessitate, local law enforcement will assert that she fabricated documents, pilfered data, and manufactured evidence. People invariably accept that which appears official." A frigid sensation coursed through Maya, yet her countenance remained impassive. The woman lowered her tone. "She was cleared by defense. A relic," Holloway scoffed. "A cleaning woman with a history. Nothing more." The woman retrieved a small metallic case from her black clutch purse, and then concluded. Holloway's hand reached inside his jacket. Maya suddenly straightened, feigning the act of tying the refuse bag. Detective Sloan materialized at the hallway's furthest extremity. For a fleeting instant, his gaze met hers. His brow furrowed. Maya averted her eyes, but it was too late. Sloan addressed her. "Judge." Holloway turned. Sloan advanced, his attention now focused on Maya. "That cleaner. She was not assigned to this corridor." Mia tightened her grip on the cart. Nathan stated, "Maya, withdraw." Sloan accelerated his pace. "Hey, you!" Maya propelled her cart forward, effectively obstructing the passage between Holloway and the woman. The metallic case slipped from the woman's grasp, clattering onto the lower shelf of Mia's cart.
Sloan seized Mia's arm. "Turn around." Mia complied, meeting his gaze directly. His countenance became visibly drained of color.
"You!" Holloway's expression shifted dramatically. "Not substantial, perhaps, but sufficient, Miss Williams." Torres's voice cut through the tension, clear and chillingly devoid of emotion. "We have confirmation. The units are mobilizing." The hallway erupted into immediate activity. Federal agents surged through the service entrance, the kitchen access point, and the Grand Hall archway simultaneously. Federal agents' hands were conspicuously visible. The woman in pearls attempted to flee towards the judicial reception room. Nathan emerged from the stairwell, intercepting her. She slowly raised both hands, her elegant demeanor replaced by palpable anger. Sloan reached for his jacket. Maya forcefully propelled the trash cart into his knees. He collided with the wall with a pained grunt, and two agents subdued him before his hand could fully extricate itself from his garment. Holloway did not immediately attempt escape. Individuals of his caliber did not typically resort to flight. They operated under the presumption that their surroundings would naturally conform to their authority. "This is an outrage," he declared. "I am a federal judge." Torres entered the corridor, bearing the sealed evidence packet procured from Harper's vehicle. "Indeed, Your Honor, that is precisely what exacerbates this situation." Holloway's gaze darted towards the metallic case resting on Maya's cart. Maya registered this, and Torres noticed it as well. An agent carefully opened the case. Within lay a data drive enveloped in a folded court order bearing Holloway's signature. Nathan read the initial line aloud. "Emergency Sealing Directive." Julia Reyes appeared behind him, no longer concerned with the potential repercussions of her actions. That order number corresponds to a sealed civil rights appeal. Holloway's voice hardened considerably. "You possess no lawful authority to interfere with judicial materials." Torres moved closer. "I possess the authority to halt the illicit sale of protected American identities to an extraterritorial organization." The Grand Hall had fallen into an unnerving silence. Guests congregated near the archway, their gazes fixed on the unfolding scene. Champagne glasses remained suspended in midair. The string quartet had ceased their performance. Holloway directed his attention to Maya. The facade finally crumbled. "You have absolutely no comprehension of what you are disrupting." Maya stepped away from the cart. Her voice, though quiet, resonated clearly. "My profession involves collecting refuse. I am acutely aware of precisely what you are." For a moment, the only audible sound was Sloane's strained breathing against the floor. Then, Torres gestured to the agents. "Apprehend him." Two federal agents advanced towards Holloway. He recoiled. "You cannot detain me within my own courthouse." Maya surveyed the marble walls, the imposing flags, the ornate chandeliers, and the donors frozen in their expensive attire. "This has never been your courthouse," she stated. The handcuffs clicked shut around Judge Richard Holloway's wrists. This time, they were not excessively constrictive. They were simply definitive. By dawn, the Harrington Federal Courthouse had abandoned its pretense of normalcy. The chandeliers in the Grand Hall remained illuminated, but the music was conspicuously absent. White tablecloths drooped under the weight of abandoned shrimp cocktail plates and partially consumed champagne glasses. A silver tray lay overturned near the service corridor, its minuscule crab cakes strewn across the marble like loose change following a robbery. Federal agents moved methodically through the room, equipped with evidence bags, cameras, gloves, and speaking in hushed tones. Judge Richard Holloway was escorted out through the building's main entrance. Not via the private elevator, nor the judge's secured garage, nor the discreet hallway where individuals of his standing typically avoided public scrutiny. The principal doors. By that hour,
Reporters had already congregated outside. Likewise, courthouse staff, law enforcement officers, donors, and ordinary citizens who, having witnessed flashing lights, had drawn closer, drawn by the innate human curiosity that allows small-town populations to sense history in the making. Holloway descended the steps, flanked by federal agents on either side. His silver tie was askew, his complexion ashen, and his hands were cuffed before him. For the first time in memory, no one addressed him as Your Honor. Maya Williams observed from behind the protective glass doors, still clad in her custodial uniform, her trash cart parked beside her. One wheel angled slightly inward, its gray plastic receptacle holding an assortment of empty bottles, discarded napkins, and the critical metallic case that had nearly facilitated the exodus of American identities. Nathan Cole stood near her. "Are you all right?" Maya watched Holloway disappear into a black SUV. "No," she replied. Nathan nodded. A fair assessment. Raymond Torres approached, a folder tucked beneath his arm. He appeared as weary as everyone else, but his eyes retained their sharp acuity. "The data drive has been confirmed. Multiple protected identities, some actively engaged overseas, others linked to confidential cooperation agreements. Had that file been transmitted tonight, lives would have been irrevocably lost." Maya remained silent for a beat. Then she inquired, "Did we intervene in sufficient time?" Torres's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "We believe so." Behind them, Julia Reyes was providing a formal statement to federal investigators. Detective Sloan occupied a chair, his hands secured behind his back, his suit rumpled, his face devoid of expression. Officer Dean Harper had already been transferred to federal custody following his recorded confession, which directly linked Holloway's chambers to the misplaced refuse bag. The woman in pearls initially refused to divulge her name. This proved inconsequential. Torres's associates had already identified 3 separate individuals. Lena Brooks emerged from the service hallway, cradling 2 paper cups of coffee. She extended one to Maya. "Drink this," Lena instructed. Maya accepted it. "You always issue directives." "Only when individuals are too obstinate to do what's right." Maya managed a faint smile. Lena gazed through the glass towards the courthouse steps, where agents were meticulously removing boxes from Holloway's chambers. "I've cleaned this edifice for 22 years, she remarked.
22 years of watching men stride past me, as if I were an intrinsic part of the flooring. It transpires that the floor overheard everything." Maya wrapped both hands around the warm cup. "They relied on that." "On what?" "On people not noticing you." Lena nodded slowly. "Then they miscalculated." The ensuing days did not possess the aura of triumph. They felt akin to a meticulous process of rectification. The headlines underwent a transformation first. "Janitor investigated" evolved into "Judge arrested in courthouse corruption probe." By the following morning, the scope had broadened significantly. "Federal judge accused of trafficking protected U.S. intelligence." Subsequently, terms such as civil rights violations, wrongful convictions, foreign purchasers, police cover-up, and evidence tampering began to surface. America, in its characteristic fashion when confronted with self-reflection, engaged in debate, denial, observation, and ultimately alignment with chosen sides. However, in Harrington, the individuals who had been marginalized for years finally found their voices amplified by the eager microphones of the press. Marcus Bell stood outside the courthouse alongside his mother, a petite, erect woman sporting a Sunday hat, despite the fact that it was merely a Tuesday. When questioned by reporters regarding the duration of his efforts to have his brother's case reopened, he responded, "Long enough to ascertain that justice delayed is not necessarily justice served. At times, it merely constitutes a more aesthetically pleasing form of interment." Darnell Bell's appeal was reinstated within 2 weeks. This was followed by 14 other cases, then 27, and subsequently a greater number. Julia Reyes returned to her duties under federal protection and assisted in the reconstruction of the files Holloway had deliberately compromised. Aaron Miles was located 2 counties away, battered and visibly terrified, yet alive. He provided testimony from a secure, undisclosed location. Lena Brooks submitted a statement that spanned 62 pages, explaining her rationale to Nathan by stating, if their intention was brevity, they ought to have acted with rectitude far sooner. Officer Harper's body camera footage, the rideshare driver's video recording, and the attorney's sworn testimony became integral components of the civil rights litigation filed against him. His pronouncements outside the courthouse were broadcast nationwide. The public heard him disparage Maya as a terrorist. They heard him chuckle derisively as she tumbled into the refuse bin. They heard him declare her rightful place to be amongst the discarded waste. The badge he had flung into the downpour was formally entered into evidence, as was the bloodstain on the courthouse wall. Months later, the Harrington Federal Courthouse reopened its doors under federal supervision. The Grand Hall now resonated with a subdued atmosphere. Holloway's portrait had been conspicuously removed from the judicial corridor. The secure disposal system had undergone a complete reconstruction. Every transfer of evidence now necessitated 2 distinct signatures and the implementation of a camera system impervious to manipulation from any chamber. The service personnel received enhanced training, increased remuneration, and identification badges that security personnel were mandated to authenticate prior to any physical interaction. Maya returned to her duties on a Monday evening. Mrs. Patterson had advised her against it. Lena opined that she was either remarkably courageous or exceptionally pig-headed, and Nathan posited that both attributes could coexist. Torres extended an offer of assistance with relocating her. Maya expressed her gratitude to each of them, yet proceeded with her return, not out of a perceived necessity for concealment, nor from a desire for the position, but because there remained floors to be cleaned, receptacles to be emptied, and an edifice that required a fundamental remembrance of its salvation from its own inherent corruption. At precisely 10:04 in the evening, Maya entered through the service portal. The newly appointed security guard meticulously examined her identification, then carefully scrutinized her face. "A pleasant evening to you, Miss Williams," he articulated. Maya paused. No one in that particular building had ever uttered her name with such a tone before. "And to you," she responded. Lena was awaiting her near the supply closet, accompanied by the identical yellow cleaning cart, its wheel emitting the familiar squeak. "You're tardy," Lena commented. "By 4 minutes." "That's precisely how it begins." Maya took hold of the cart's handle, and together they proceeded through the hushed corridors. The courthouse still carried the faint aroma of polish, paper, and ancient stone. However, a palpable transformation had occurred. The silence no longer conveyed a sense of menace. Instead, it felt akin to the tranquil aftermath of a profound confession. In proximity to the main entrance, workers had meticulously erased the abrasions from the brick wall where Harper had forcefully pressed her face. The scrape marks were gone. Yet, adjacent to the wall, mounted at eye level, was a small bronze plaque bearing an inscription. "Justice is not preserved by walls of marble. It is safeguarded by those who resolutely refuse to avert their gaze." Maya stood before it for an extended moment. Outside, beyond the confines of the glass doors, a young African-American girl, accompanied by her mother, ambled along the sidewalk. The girl halted upon perceiving Maya through the transparent pane. She tugged at her mother's sleeve, then offered a shy wave. Maya opened the door. The girl looked up at her, her young eyes wide with curiosity. "Are you the lady who rescued the courthouse?" Her mother appeared somewhat flustered.
Kayla, please don't disturb her. It's quite all right, Maya assured. The girl's gaze shifted from Maya's uniform to the cart positioned behind her. Do you still clean here? Maya confirmed. Why? Maya looked back towards the imposing marble floor, the proud flags, the lengthy corridor where falsehoods had once navigated unimpeded, unobserved. Because cleanliness does not maintain itself, she articulated. The girl contemplated this with a seriousness characteristic of childhood contemplation, devoid of pretense. Were you frightened? Maya knelt, bringing herself to their shared eye level. Yes, but you still proceeded. Maya offered a gentle smile.
Experiencing fear does not necessitate cessation of forward momentum. The girl nodded, her satisfaction profound in a manner rarely achieved by adults. Maya rose and returned to her cart. Lena stood in the hallway, effectively pretending to wipe her eyes. What is it? Maya inquired. Nothing, Lena replied. Just a bit of dust. Maya propelled the cart forward. The squeaky wheel echoed down the corridor, past numerous courtrooms, past securely locked offices, past walls that had ultimately learned the imperative of listening. That evening, she emptied trash receptacles within the very same structure where men had bartered secrets, irrevocably damaged lives, and audaciously termed it justice. However, the edifice was no longer exclusively theirs. Not entirely. At times, truth emanated from a witness stand. On occasion, from a meticulously compiled file, sometimes from a badge, a visible scar, a mother's unwavering testimony, or a video captured by a fearful man at the roadside. And at other instances, truth arrived concealed within a black trash bag, borne by a woman whom the powerful had never deigned to acknowledge. At the corridor's terminus, Maya secured the final bag of the night and placed it onto her cart. Lena regarded her. Are you prepared? Maya cast one last glance at the courthouse behind them. Then she responded, Yes, ma'am. Let's remove the refuse. The profound lesson embedded within Maya Williams's narrative underscores the principle that genuine justice is not contingent upon official titles, sartorial designations, or imposing marble architecture. It is, instead, a testament to the courage of ordinary individuals who adamantly refuse to avert their gaze when confronted with impropriety. Maya experienced a dehumanizing invisibility, a consequence of her ethnic background, her occupational role, and her inherently reserved disposition. Nevertheless, her remarkable fortitude demonstrated that inherent dignity can triumph over profound humiliation, and that truth possesses the remarkable capacity to ascend from the very spaces that powerful individuals deliberately overlook. This account serves as a poignant reminder that no honorable labor is inherently beneath respect, that no individual should be subjected to judgment based upon superficial appearances, and that no systemic structure, however formidable, is beyond scrutiny when it falters in its fundamental obligation to safeguard those it purports to serve. Thank you for accompanying this narrative to its conclusion. Should its unfolding have resonated deeply within your heart, I would genuinely appreciate hearing your reflections on the storytelling approach, the emotional cadence, or any elements that lingered with you subsequent to its reception. Every shared comment contributes immeasurably to the creation of subsequent narratives that are characterized by enhanced authenticity, emotional depth, and meaningful impact. Furthermore, if you possess a personal story of significant import or profound resonance, please do not hesitate to transmit it to the channel. It may very well become the next narrative to profoundly touch and inspire countless others. This video presentation constitutes a work of pure fiction, meticulously crafted with the indispensable assistance of advanced artificial intelligence. All characters, encompassing every event and circumstance depicted herein, are entirely imaginary and bear no resemblance whatsoever to any actual individuals or verifiable historical accounts. The content is intended solely for the purpose of narrative dissemination and the evocation of emotional resonance.